Robert Louis Stevenson. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Part 6. "These are all very strange things," said Mr. Utterson. "But I think I begin to understand. Your master, Poole, is clearly suffering from one of those illnesses that both hurt and change the body. That may explain the change in his voice. That may explain the mask and why he avoids his friends. That may explain why he is so eager to find this drug, because the poor man still hopes he will recover. God grant that he is not mistaken. This is my explanation. It is sad, Poole, yes, and frightening to think about. But it is simple and natural. It fits together well, and it saves us from more terrible fears." "Sir," said the butler, becoming pale, "that thing was not my master, and that is the truth. My master," here he looked around and began to speak quietly, "is a tall, well-built man, and this was smaller, more like a dwarf." Utterson tried to protest. "Oh, sir," cried Poole, "do you think I do not know my master after 20 years? Do you think I do not know how tall he is in the cabinet door, where I have seen him every morning of my life? No, sir. That thing in the mask was never Dr. Jekyll. God knows what it was, but it was never Dr. Jekyll. And I truly believe that a murder has happened." "Poole," replied the lawyer, "if you say that, then it becomes my duty to be sure. Even though I want to protect your master's feelings, and even though I am confused by this note which seems to show he is still alive, I must consider it my duty to break that door." "Ah, Mr. Utterson, that is the right decision," cried the butler. "And now comes the second question," continued Utterson. "Who is going to do it?" "Well, you and me, sir," was the brave answer. "That is well said," replied the lawyer. "And whatever happens, I will make sure you do not suffer any loss." "There is an axe in the theater," continued Poole, "and you can take the kitchen poker for yourself." The lawyer took that rough but heavy tool in his hand and weighed it. "Do you know, Poole," he said, looking up, "that you and I are about to put ourselves in some danger?" "You can say that, sir," replied the butler. "It is good, then, that we should speak honestly," said the other. "We both think more than we have said. Let us speak openly. This masked person that you saw, did you recognize it?" "Well, sir, it happened so quickly, and the creature was so bent over that I can hardly be sure," was the answer. "But if you mean, was it Mr. Hyde?" "Well, yes, I think it was. You see, it was about the same size, and it had the same quick, light way of moving. And then, who else could have come in through the laboratory door? You have not forgotten, sir, that at the time of the murder he still had the key. But that is not all. I do not know, Mr. Utterson, if you have ever met this Mr. Hyde?" "Yes," said the lawyer. "I spoke with him once." "Then you must know, like the rest of us, that there was something strange about that man, something that made a person feel uneasy. I do not know how to explain it better, sir, except this, that you felt cold and uncomfortable deep inside." "I admit I felt something like that," said Mr. Utterson. "Exactly, sir," replied Poole. "Well, when that masked thing, like a monkey, jumped from among the chemicals and ran into the cabinet, I felt cold all through my body. Oh, I know this is not proof, Mr. Utterson. I am educated enough to know that. But a man has his feelings, and I swear to you it was Mr. Hyde." "Yes, yes," said the lawyer. "My fears go in the same direction. Evil, I believe, has grown from that connection. Evil was sure to come from it. Yes, truly, I believe you. I believe poor Harry is dead, and I believe his murderer, for what reason only God knows, is still hiding in his victim's room. Well, let us take revenge. Call Bradshaw." The servant came when he was called, very pale and nervous. "Calm yourself, Bradshaw," said the lawyer. "This waiting has been hard for all of you, but now we intend to end it. Poole and I are going to force our way into the cabinet. If everything is fine, I will take the blame. Meanwhile, in case something is really wrong or someone tries to escape through the back, you and the boy must go around the corner with strong sticks and stand by the laboratory door. We give you 10 minutes to get into position." When Bradshaw left, the lawyer looked at his watch. "And now, Poole, let us go to our place," he said. And taking the poker under his arm, he led the way into the yard. Clouds had covered the moon, and now it was completely dark. The wind, which came in short bursts into that closed space between the buildings, moved the candlelight around their feet, until they reached the shelter of the theater, where they sat down silently to wait. London made a deep, distant noise all around them. But nearby, the silence was broken only by the sound of footsteps moving back and forth along the cabinet floor. "So it walks like that all day, sir," whispered Poole. "Yes, and for most of the night. Only when a new sample comes from the chemist, there is a short pause. Ah, it is a guilty mind that cannot rest. Ah, sir, there is blood in every step it takes. But listen again, more carefully. Listen closely, Mr. Utterson, and tell me, is that the doctor's step?" The steps were light and strange, with a kind of swing even though they were slow. They were very different from the heavy, slow steps of Henry Jekyll. Utterson sighed. "Is there nothing else?" he asked. Poole nodded. "Once," he said. "Once I heard it crying." "Crying? How?" said the lawyer, suddenly feeling cold with fear. "Crying like a woman or a lost soul," said the butler. "I went away with that feeling in my heart, and I felt like I could cry too." But now the 10 minutes were over. Poole took the axe from under a pile of straw. The candle was put on the nearest table to give them light, and they moved forward quietly to where that steady step was still going up and down, in the silence of the night. "Jekyll!" cried Utterson in a loud voice. "I demand to see you!" He waited for a moment, but there was no answer. "I warn you clearly. Our suspicions are raised, and I must and will see you," he continued. "If not in a peaceful way, then by force. If not with your agreement, then by strength." "Utterson," said the voice, "for God's sake have mercy." "Ah, that is not Jekyll's voice. It is Hyde's," cried Utterson. "Break the door, Poole." Poole lifted the axe over his shoulder. The blow shook the building, and the red door jumped against the lock and hinges. A terrible scream, like an animal in fear, came from the cabinet. The axe was lifted again, and again the panels broke and the frame shook. 4 times the blow fell, but the wood was strong and the door was well made. And it was not until the 5th blow that the lock broke, and the broken door fell inside onto the carpet. The attackers, shocked by their own noise and the sudden silence that followed, stepped back a little and looked inside. The cabinet lay before them in the quiet lamplight, a good fire burning and making soft sounds in the fireplace, the kettle making a quiet noise, 1 or 2 drawers open, papers neatly arranged on the desk, and near the fire, things prepared for tea. It was the most peaceful room, you could say, and, except for the glass cupboards full of chemicals, it looked like the most ordinary room in London that night. Right in the middle lay the body of a man, badly twisted and still moving a little. They came closer on tiptoe, turned him onto his back, and saw the face of Edward Hyde. He was wearing clothes that were far too big for him, clothes that belonged to the doctor. The muscles of his face still moved a little, as if he were alive, but life was gone. And from the broken bottle in his hand and the strong smell in the air, Utterson understood that he was looking at the body of a man who had killed himself. "We have come too late," he said firmly, "either to save him or to punish him. Hyde is gone to answer for his actions. And now we only need to find your master's body." Most of the building was taken up by the theater, which filled almost the whole ground floor and was lit from above, and by the cabinet, which was on an upper floor at one end and looked onto the yard. A corridor connected the theater to the door in the side street, and the cabinet also had its own connection by another staircase. There were also a few dark closets and a large cellar. They carefully searched all of these places. Each closet needed only a quick look, because they were all empty, and the dust on the doors showed they had not been opened for a long time. The cellar, however, was full of old, broken things, mostly from the time of the surgeon who worked there before Jekyll. But as soon as they opened the door, they saw that further searching was useless, because a thick layer of cobwebs had closed the entrance for years. Nowhere was there any sign of Henry Jekyll, dead or alive. Poole stamped on the floor of the corridor. "He must be buried here," he said, listening to the sound. "Or he may have run away," said Utterson, and he turned to look at the door in the side street. It was locked, and lying nearby on the floor they found the key, already covered with rust. "This does not look like it has been used," said the lawyer. "Used?" repeated Poole. "Do you not see, sir, it is broken? As if someone had stepped on it." "Yes," continued Utterson, "and the broken parts are rusty too." The two men looked at each other in fear. "I do not understand this, Poole," said the lawyer. "Let us go back to the cabinet." They went up the stairs in silence, and still looking sometimes with fear at the dead body, they began to examine the cabinet more carefully. On one table there were signs of chemical work, with small measured piles of a white salt placed on glass dishes, as if for an experiment that the unhappy man had not been able to finish. "That is the same drug I was always bringing him," said Poole. And as he spoke, the kettle suddenly boiled over with a loud noise. This made them go to the fireplace, where the armchair was placed comfortably near the fire, and the tea things were ready for someone to use, even the sugar already in the cup. There were several books on a shelf. One lay open next to the tea things, and Utterson was surprised to see it was a religious book, which Jekyll had often said he respected. But it was written in with shocking, disrespectful notes in his own handwriting. Then, as they continued to look around the room, they came to a large mirror, and they looked into it with a sudden feeling of fear. But it was turned in such a way that they saw only the red light on the ceiling, the fire shining many times in the glass of the cupboards, and their own pale and frightened faces looking into it. "This mirror has seen some strange things, sir," whispered Poole. "And surely nothing stranger than itself," said the lawyer in the same quiet voice. "Why did Jekyll—" He stopped suddenly when he said the name, and then controlled himself. "Why would Jekyll want it?" he said. "You can say that," said Poole. Then they turned to the desk. On the desk, among the neatly arranged papers, there was a large envelope on top, and on it, in the doctor's handwriting, was the name of Mr. Utterson. The lawyer opened it, and several papers fell to the floor. The first was a will, written in the same strange way as the one he had returned 6 months before, to be used as a will if the doctor died, and as a gift if he disappeared. But instead of the name Edward Hyde, the lawyer read, with great surprise, the name Gabriel John Utterson. He looked at Poole, then back at the paper, and finally at the dead man lying on the carpet. "My head is spinning," he said. "He has had control all these days. He had no reason to like me. He must have been angry to see himself replaced. And yet, He did not destroy this document. He picked up the next paper. It was a short note in the doctor's handwriting, with a date at the top. "Oh, Poole!" the lawyer cried. "He was alive and here today. He cannot have been killed in such a short time. He must still be alive. He must have run away. But then, why did he run? And how? And in that case, can we say this is suicide? Oh, we must be careful. I fear we may bring your master into a terrible trouble." "Why don't you read it, sir?" asked Poole. "Because I am afraid," replied the lawyer seriously. "God grant I am wrong." And with that, he raised the paper to his eyes and read, "My dear Utterson, when this comes into your hands, I will have disappeared. I do not know in what circumstances, but my instinct and everything about my terrible situation tell me that the end is certain and will come soon. Go then, and first read the account which Lanyon told me he would give you. And if you want to know more, read the confession of your unworthy and unhappy friend, Henry Jekyll." "There was a third paper?" asked Utterson. "Here, sir," said Poole, and he gave him a large packet sealed in several places. The lawyer put it into his pocket. "I will say nothing about this paper. If your master has run away or is dead, we can at least protect his good name. It is now 10 o'clock. I must go home and read these papers in peace. But I will return before midnight, and then we will call the police." They went out, locking the door of the theater behind them. And Utterson, leaving the servants gathered around the fire in the hall, walked back to his office to read the 2 accounts that would now explain this mystery.